All right, here we go. Hey guys, good morning and good evening. Welcome to the show. Got some things need to talk about real quickly. We got a good show tonight. Got some breaking news on two fronts. Going to talk about the illegal aliens, and we also going to talk about possibly U.S. military strikes against terrorism, which I done that a long time ago. But yes, we got some people that we're going to see. American Agenda is a good guy. I'll check on him. Oh, he's showing some good stuff. Let me go ahead and unplug him. Thank you guys for watching.
On a station there at Tower 22. And a drone hit a living quarters there and killed 3 U.S. soldiers and injured, I believe, over 40 U.S. soldiers. So we're now waiting. Biden said this morning, President Biden, he has decided on a response. We're waiting for some sort of, I'm guessing, military response to Iran. That's what it looks like going to happen in response to Iran. But is it going to be a direct attack on Iran or, an attack on Iranian forces outside of Iran or an attack on Iranian-supported groups in other countries? This is what we wait to see. And it could happen tonight. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen whenever. I do think it's it's reasonable to think it'll happen the next few days.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing a bunch of indications it could happen over the course of several days.
All right, let me go ahead and do this. I'll pause him.
Let me know what you think about all this.
All right, we got first thing first. You just missed the last live. Well, welcome in, bro. What's going on? It's been a rough day. Well, it's been a rough couple of days. We're going to go ahead and put this out real quickly. Share what I'm going to talk about real quickly tonight. I was not going to started talking about cruising, but hey, this news are breaking right now. Give me a second. The Pentagon released the names of the 3 that passed away during that terrorist attack. It's right there if you want to see it. Three victims from the United States Army passed away. They're from Georgia. They're from Georgia, and gotta talk about what's gonna happen. The response. This happened Saturday night. Today is Tuesday. No response from the Let's Go Brandon administration. I can say that now because I'm on my regular channel. I'm on the first one. So you're making some taco salad. Oh, cool. So tonight we are waiting. I have U.S. military response, American Agenda. I'm going to try to get a local news report from Sky Network. Let me see what they're doing now. Okay, there's Rudy. Oh, this is Rudy. Hold on. Let me put him on. Give me a second.
You should all be impeached for that and put in jail. And getting these 2 young men and this woman killed. You damn better not, when they come back, look at your watch, Biden.
Mm-hmm.
I know you got the Secret Service to protect you from being slapped across the face. I'm talking about fatal anything or violence or whatever. But how about a ceremonial slap across the face for how dishonorable you are
Rudy.
made our nation. What the hell is wrong with you, Biden? 159 attacks.
Rudy going off.
You don't want to escalate? No. Go sell that to somebody else, Biden. Go sell it to the people you brainwashed in order to get elected. I don't know who the hell voted for you. I'm embarrassed for them. This goes a lot deeper than that, Biden. You know it. I don't know exactly what it is, but you and Prince Obama have some kind of
Oh, hold on. Commercial. Hold on.
New Eden.
Okay. Sorry about the commercial. All right, come on, Rudy. Get back on here.
damn maniac in Iran. You got to. You've given them billions.
Mm-hmm.
You funded this attack. You're funding both sides of the war in Gaza. You are funding it. Your predecessor, who probably is making the decisions now, gave Iran, biggest sponsor of terrorism in the world, a country dedicated to the destruction of the state of Israel, to the destruction of the Jewish people, and as they chant in their streets, death to Americans. That's us. That, Biden, is the country you're president of. He wants to kill us. And you're our president, and you've given him billions. First thing you did when you came in is lift the Trump sanctions.
Mm-hmm.
And they were starving, and now they are rich enough to carry on a war because of you. I know the crooked press doesn't say these things. I don't know what's wrong with them. They must hate our country too. Or they're brainwashed and sick like you are. I don't know.
Will you be able to afford
Oh, my bad.
golden years?
Sorry.
Do you worry how you'll make ends meet? You may be leaving up to $100,000.
Sorry about the commercial. I forgot. Oh, Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor. Awesome. He is fired up tonight. Now, this is what I listen to. This is what I watch tonight. If I don't do any broadcasts, Newsmax, Agenda Free. Oh, hold on. Today we got some action in the Middle East.
From future attacks. Mr. Biden could choose to strike more prominent or valuable Iranian IRGC targets in those countries. He could also strike Iran directly. But America has not conducted an overt military operation on Iranian soil since a botched hostage rescue in 1980. And I don't believe they've ever directly hit forces, directly launched a strike on Iran, and has not hit Iranian forces outside Iraq and Syria since a large-scale strike on RIRGC naval forces in 1988. America's response will be on a level far above the action we've seen thus far, said an Iran expert, Gregory Brew at the Eurasia Group. This could signal a period of much more intense exchanges with more damage and higher casualties. Mr. Biden's dilemma, says The Economist, is that while modest reprisals may appear inadequate, heavy retaliation could cause other problems. Large-scale attacks in Iraq, for example, would further poison the relationship with the government in Baghdad, handing Iran a political victory. Iran could also up the ante elsewhere. Iran could encourage Hezbollah to attack Israel more forcefully, for example. Iran could also launch attacks against a wider range of American targets directly or through proxies, including diplomatic and civilian outposts, rather than just military bases. Outright conflict with Iran also almost guarantees a surge in the oil price, especially if transit through the Persian Gulf were to be disrupted or Iranian attacks on Saudi Arabian oil infrastructure were to take place. A further sharp rise would feed through to the gas pump prices in America during an election year. Finally, the military response to Iran comes as America and its allies are attempting to negotiate a pause in the Israel-Hamas war and a hostage deal in the hope it will eventually end the war or at least diminish the fighting sufficiently to reduce tensions elsewhere. An eruption of violence between America and Iran could quash hopes of restoring calm before Ramadan, the Muslim holy period which begins in March. The U.S. will want to find a response that is proportionate and non-escalatory, but also effective and deterrent, says Mr. Rain. That is, under the current conditions in the region and with the current array of active hostile actors, a very tall order. At least one of those criteria is going to have to give. So I wanted to show you this because this is a discussion of some of the complicating factors. You want it to be strong enough to deter Iran, but you don't want it to be so strong that it, leads to a too big of an Iranian response, or so strong that it wrecks the peace negotiations going on over the Gaza-Israel war. Or you don't want it to be so strong that it causes consequences to make oil prices go way up. But you also don't want it to be too weak to deter Iran from supporting such attacks in the future. So there's all of those complicating factors here. So I thought that was a nice kind of summary as to the various kind of factors which the Biden administration will keep in mind when trying to figure out what to do here. And the difficulty of trying to get it right.
All right, we're going to go back to Rudy because I know he has something to say. Here we go.
That's to Americans. And you give them and try to give them even more money, and they use the money to kill people. That's pure evil. That's pure evil. I don't know what you're going to do. It's already been delayed significantly. Maybe you're looking for a field to hit that we haven't hit yet. Would you like to look at the map? This is where it occurred, right on the border here. Right in here. Right in the water up here between Jordan and Syria. I think it was on the Jordanian side, Tower 22, 135 American troops. Now 132 American troops. 3 of their bodies are coming back to the United States in a coffin with your name on it, Biden. This did not have to happen. We do an after-action analysis of this. Got to be somebody with the guts to say, this didn't have to happen. You had 158 opportunities to prevent it. You poor excuse for a human being. You had 158 opportunities to save their lives. Has there ever been a president that has lost as many people in a time where we're not at war as you? Man, you got a lot in Afghanistan you lost.
Yep.
Wow. When you pulled out the troops before the civilians in a place where the terrorist groups were just itching to kill those civilians for helping us. What is voting for you? What is wrong with it? What kind of propaganda is there in this country that will even tolerate you for a minute in the White House? You're a 30-year criminal who's getting people killed. Not to mention the border, which we will talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people died of fentanyl today. It's because of you. Trump had the border under the best control it was under in 30 to 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
you have set records for the worst ever. And they're going up. And you blame it on the Republicans.
Yep.
Well, I guess you'll come up with something to do. I'm sure it won't hurt Iran very badly. And I imagine China will be happy with it. So,
Well, Mayor, I mean, we talk about this. Even his response, his response today seems to be something unoriginal, right?
well, I was going to use that as one of my 5, but we might as well
Now, let's say that
use it right now. We might as well use it right now because I picked it up right away, right? What happened when I heard?
when you heard it.
Said, we'll respond in a time and place of our own choosing. God damn, he even plagiarized that.
Mm-hmm.
He even plagiarized that. He can't come up with an original comment.
Of course, that's what the President Biden's response was. He said that we are going to respond to the 10th.
Wow.
And let's play the
I'll play. Even the Atlantic, the magazine that sucks his backside, said it was disgusting boilerplate. You know, that goes back to at least Bush.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this fraud is such a disgrace to our country. So I went and looked, did this research myself because I'm not a demented fool like the idiot in the White House. I may be, oh, by the way, Haley, you piece of crap,
I'll get her.
I'm 79 years old. I'm a hell of a lot older than you. But I know the provinces in Ukraine that you want to spend money on and get people killed in, and you don't. I know the cause of the Civil War. I even know the cause of the Revolutionary War. We're going to take you up a little later because today you did something not pardonable. You'll find out what it was. Keep
Ooh.
listening, Haley. Maybe you learned something. Jesus, you probably never took history. Tough course history. Oh, yeah, really tough. Really, really tough. What, you go to beauty school or something? Listen to this now. This, you may even remember this speech. I remembered it like that. Like that. 79. I remembered it like that, right? Okay. And who did I tell you it came from?
You got Bush.
W.
Right.
43. And not only that, you're the one that ended up finding the video. And I had looked earlier.
All the decades of deceit and cruelty have now reached an end. Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict commenced at a time of our choosing.
I
Wow.
have that moment
Uh-huh.
on that video.
Shall we play it?
Yes.
Go ahead and play it.
Deceit and cruelty have now reached an end. Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict, commenced at a time of our choosing. For their own spirit.
Okay.
Well, we're going to take a short break, and I'm going to show you how often this prosaic comment has been made. You know, maybe you shouldn't show up when their bodies come back, because you might get families like you got last time that are smart enough to blame you.
Rudy, America's mayor. I love that man. That man, when he was the mayor of New York, he didn't take no shit from nobody. And what they do, what the Justice Department and the Brandon administration is doing to that man is a disgrace. They did it to Rudy. They're doing it to Trump. The Justice Department is. If you don't, you cannot tell me the Justice Department it's political. It is, especially when it comes to Hunter Biden. Come on, man. I don't know if you had a gun. I know you try to get a gun, and you're doing drugs. You're breaking the law. That fool should be in jail. Hunter Biden made money for his old man. He wasn't a foreign agent. Come on, man. Justice Department, the Biden administration is not doing a job with the border. Come on, man. All right, Rudy. I like Rudy. Rudy's the man. All right, let's go back and find out what's going on. See if they have any progress.
Okay, if you do the same thing and you start attacking facilities that you want to attack for fake excuses. So, you don't want to upset other countries unnecessarily. And also, if you want countries to behave a certain way and hold to certain standards, you want to hold your own country to those standards as well.
I'm just checking on here some stuff. He's taking some information and see what's going on.
Dan Lampkin says, can the U.S. knock out Iran's nuclear facilities now as a preemptive strike? Again, as I said before, there's no relation between Iranian nuclear facilities and the drone strike that I can think of that would be easily explainable. So I can't imagine that any nuclear facilities would be attacked, one, because it would just be seen as a completely unrelated target, and two, because it would be seen as so provocative to Iran. Maybe it would be seen as an existential strike on Iran, and it might force Iran to take some kind of action that could really escalate things. So no, I see no chance that any kind of nuclear facility would be involved in any kind of retaliation by the U.S.
All right, let me review people that don't understand what's going on. As y'all know, Iran is trying to get a nuclear weapon. And you want to know why? You want to know how they're trying to do it? When Let's Go Brandon took over as president, he forgave the sanctions against Iran. He's giving them money. Billions of dollars. Iran, when Trump was president, he cut out the sanctions, he cut out all the oil thing. So when Biden went in there, Biden said, hey, we need to get this Iran nuclear deal. Because Joe Biden and John Kerry are a bunch of knucklehead idiots. So that's a good question. Will the United States take away? I think it should. I'm telling you this. If Trump was president, none of this shit would be happening.
At the same time, David thinks that this is not going to be anything more than a symbolic response.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's 5 o'clock in the morning in Iran.
And somehow thinks this is connected to liquefied natural gas, but that I'm not going to get onto that now. But thank you, David. I appreciate you writing in.
You're going back to Rudy. Let's see here. Yeah. Go back to Rudy. Let's go back to Rudy. All right, here we go. Rudy's back.
The first time Bush was in the White House, you just heard it. The second time Prince Obama was in the White House, you know what a weakling he was. 12 red lines, don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the biggest of all is this jackass who got people killed in Afghanistan. Putin watched it. taunted him for 2 months, which if you follow my podcast, I explained as it was going along. I didn't wait until after. And when he realized, man, I got this guy, he went in and he took a big portion of Ukraine. And he's not giving it back to Biden. So you got to understand that Putin is back in the Middle East because of Prince Obama. He couldn't deal with the Syrian conflict, and on 12 occasions he told Syria, if you use weapons of, told Assad, if you use weapons of mass destruction, I'm gonna lose. I don't know if he used time and place. Or, I think he actually was smart enough to be able to change it a few times. He didn't do anything. And finally, he had to bring Putin in to end the war. Well, Putin didn't end the war. A man named Donald J. Trump ended the war.
Yes.
You might remember, I'm going to tell you how a president has to act. I can't remember the exact date of this, but I seem to think I was at home resting up from my busted up knee.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking on the phone about it. And I just thought this is Ronald Reagan at his best.
Mm-hmm.
He's having dinner with Xi Jinping at Mar-a-Lago.
Yep.
You know, as he likes to say, I get along with Xi Jinping. I treat him like a friend. Some friend, huh? They're having dinner. He says, excuse me, I've got to take care of a little business, sir. He gets up. He's gone about 40 minutes. So, you know, Xi Jinping is thinking maybe he's doing this to me. He comes back. He says, everything okay? Everything's fine. Xi, don't worry. Tomorrow I'll take you out to see my golf course and we'll have a good time. And then they spend some time talking. And Xi goes back to wherever the hell he was staying and he gets informed. You know what he did? Oh, you were eating dessert? No, what did he do? He bombed the hell out of Syria. I mean, he just got up, left the dinner table at Mar-a-Lago, went into some room, and did what the stupid, feckless Obama couldn't do 12 times? And bombed the living daylights out of Syria?
Yeah, I remember that.
That is what you call a president. We do not have that now. We have I don't know what we have. I can't call him any more names.
He's a corpse.
Because
He's a corpse.
well, I'm not even sure. I think they prop him up. And, maybe they keep him. What did they do? It wasn't Frankenstein. Dracula. They used to keep him in a coffin all day, right?
Yeah.
Then he had to go out at night and suck blood.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Biden only comes to life when he sniffs little girls' hair.
Well, it's weird. No, I want you guys seriously, and I can't even get Dr. Maria to explain this to me. Maybe she knows, but she doesn't want to tell me because she's afraid I'll make fun of it or something. Why does he look good sometimes, and then he looks like death warmed over other times? Let's go play the latest one. Ted, do we have that latest one where he thinks that Trump is the president? Gee, that's wishful thinking.
But we that is pressing. We'll upload that and play it. That's kind of maybe a Freudian slip. Remember this one this is a sad one. It's tough to even laugh at this one. But here he is greeting the deceased and their families after.
Oh, you mean with the
inappropriate hour, the Bidens were present at the Dover Air Force Base. They were attending a dignified ceremony of transfer of the fallen U.S. troops' bodies. Social media users noticed Biden glancing at his watch during the ceremony. This sparked criticism and a series of sarcastic comments online.
One.
Yeah.
Remember when Bush did that during the debate with Clinton and they made such a big deal out of it?
Mm-hmm.
That was nothing compared to that.
Okay, hold
I
on.
believe in and I value election integrity. If I knew then what I know now,
All right. So those of you who want to understand what's going on, let me say this real quickly. Y'all remember when Knucklehead and the Chief said we're going to leave Afghanistan, and for the launching point to get everybody out, he chose a civilian airport instead of a military airport, which a lot of generals say we need to keep our military airport open so we get our troops out. So why are we doing that? A terrorist attack. A terrorist attack. It hit that airport and killed 13 Americans, soldiers, and looting a lot of others. So when he went back to Dover Air Force Base and meeting the coffins, this knucklehead jackass who was looking at his watch, thinking that he had to go someplace else other than the salute our brave Americans coming back. So that's what Rudy was talking about. I think he's back now. We'll go ahead and do this.
It went unnoticed. And gosh, I don't really have any time to spend here with they probably are fit into they're probably some of them were probably MAGA people. Some are probably MAGA people. Oh, those are very bad people. Terrorists. Yeah, they go to church.
That's right. Domestic terrorists.
Yeah. He probably forgets that he goes to church because he doesn't really believe in it, but he goes to church.
Speaking of the presidency,
But take all that money if you believe it. He couldn't take all those bribes.
Dad, do you think he gets communion?
I'm sure he gets communion, but that's up to him and the priest. I don't know. You know, taking 31 million from China.
And speaking of the presidency, of course, someone who's really hoping to be the next president, a woman named Nikki Haley,
Oh God.
of course.
Nikki Haley blew it tonight, but yesterday. If it was yesterday or today, I don't know.
All right. You want to talk about Nikki Haley, and we're gonna go back over here. And we got some action, I think. Hold on. Breaking news. Hold on. Come on.
Max Rems.
We got breaking news, I think. Say something.
We're bringing you live coverage here. I'm going to continue to bring you live coverage. Keep an eye on what's happening. What I need to do is hang on one moment.
Okay, while he's doing that,
What I need to do is oops. Give me one more second here.
okay, he's checking some information. Something's happening. He's double checking his sources, see what's going on.
All right, we're bringing you live breaking news coverage, keeping our eye on what's going on in the Middle East, bringing you the latest updates that we hear about, reading your comments on the air. It is 5:08 Iran time right now, 5:08 a.m. Hey, I need to take 1 minute. I'm going to take 1 minute, and then I am going to come back in 1 minute. Okay? Give me 1 minute. I'll be right back in 1 minute.
Okay. Well, he'll be back in 1 minute. I'm going to be here. I guess he has to go to the bathroom. So once again, we are waiting for the U.S. military response to Iran. Could be soon. It is now 5:09 a.m. in Iran time. So while he's doing that, guys, don't forget, say your prayers for these three families that lost their children, their father tonight. Also pray for the other victims that are in the hospital in Germany. And we are waiting for Wesco Brandon, the knucklehead in chief. You know, he's always late. Don't know where he's. You want to know where he's at right now? Wesco Brandon, Joe Biden, is at a fundraiser in Florida. Hello. Oh, and by the way, he didn't put the flags at half staff at the White House or the Capitol building. He didn't do a prime time press conference. Didn't get no statements. He did like a flyby interview, and yeah. And like what he said when we attacked Syria because Syria used chemical weapons to get their own weapon, our own people. Donald Trump was talking to the guy in China, in Florida. And he said, he got up, he said, "Excuse me, I got to take care of some business." He took care of business. It was 24 hours after that attack. Now, it's almost 3 days. We're still waiting. So, yeah. It's just one of those days. Let's see. Hold on. Bamanoa has... Sorry. Breaking news. What is he's double checking his sources. Hold on. He's checking his sources. He has some breaking news. What I can tell you now is it is now 5:11 in the morning.
All right, we're back. Welcome.
Okay, here we go.
Welcome back. Welcome back, me. We're back right now, and we're bringing you live coverage. I'm going to check if there's any updates. I think I might want to show you what the Pentagon had to say today, and maybe what some of what John Kirby said today.
Oh God, I can't stand him.
Take a second and look at the what the Pentagon had to say.
Okay, it's gonna do something they did today.
I'm
So
constantly just checking for updates to make sure I'm not missing anything.
yeah.
Let me know what you're hearing too. At Lookner on X. I haven't seen anything the last few minutes here.
Wow, he's checking that. Yeah, that's why we need Trump, man. I'm telling you, that's why we need Trump. Trump did not play. Trump said to the leaders of Iran, we're a terrorist organization. They say, hey, if one American gets hurt, we're going to bomb the bejesus out of you. He said that. And basically, he told one of the leaders, I know where you live at. Yeah. Now, that's a cool power to have. The president says, I know where you live at. You don't try anything. Because you got a big old tomahawk ready to go if you do anything. Trump, that's why I like Trump, man. Trump speaks his mind. Joe Biden don't have no mind, so yeah. So far, nothing. Guys, don't forget to hit that like button. Appreciate it. Okay. We're going to see what Rudy is talking about. Is he still trying to find some information? I don't think it happened yet.
Here we go.
Hold on.
Let's just take a second. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I didn't actually see it when it happened. So why don't we just take a second and look a little bit at what the Pentagon had to say earlier today,
Okay.
especially at the start of the briefing. Let's do that. Just so you can see it.
All right, he's going to play it.
Right.
I got to learn how to put this on my camera.
There, see?
Okay, here we go.
And I'm going to say, real quick, I'll do this. It's not there.
Okay, this is the Pentagon briefing this afternoon. He's getting ready to set it up.
Here today.
I'm waiting on that.
We got the sound going? Let's see.
Nope, no sir.
Afternoon, everybody.
All right, here we go.
Just a few things here at the top, and we'll get right to your questions. Up front, I want to just express again our condolences to the family members and loved ones of the 3 U.S. soldiers who were killed in Jordan this weekend in the Iran proxy drone attack at Tower 22. Our thoughts and prayers continue to be with them. Secretary Austin will be calling each of the families to personally relay his respects and is planning to attend the dignified transfer of remains at Dover Air Force Base on Friday as well. Of note, the U.S. Army Reserve announced earlier today that Specialist Kennedy Sanders and Specialist Breonna Moffett have been posthumously promoted to the rank of sergeant. We're also keeping our service members who were wounded in our thoughts and wish them all a speedy recovery. In terms of updates, at this time, we're currently tracking more than 40 U.S. service members with reported injuries ranging from lacerations to possible concussions pending TBI assessments. As previously briefed, 8 personnel were medically evacuated out of Jordan for follow-on care. 3 of those 8 were transported to Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany, one of whom is reported to be in critical but stable condition. The other 2 service members are in fair and stable condition. After further examination by the Landstuhl trauma team, a determination will be made by medical staff whether any of these injured service members will require transfer back to the U.S. for further treatment. In terms of additional details about the drone attack itself, we know there are still many questions, to include how the one-way attack drone could have penetrated the facility's air defenses, its point of origin, and which specific Iranian proxy group is responsible. We can tell you that U.S. Central Command is continuing to look into all those important questions, and that we'll keep you updated as new information becomes available as we are able to. What we do know is that Iran-backed militias are responsible for these continued attacks on U.S. forces, and that we will respond at a time and manner of our choosing. While we do not seek to escalate tensions in the region, we will also take all necessary actions to protect our troops, our facilities, and our interests.
Well, you did a bad job. You guys did a bad job. You had terrorist attacks of our military personnel over 150 times. You guys did a bad job. This should have some hearings about that 150 times, and then this happened on Saturday night. And you know who did it. You know who did it. You know who did it. It's Iran. Not the proxy, not the boogeyman, but Iran. All right, I'll play it again. Continue.
Shifting gears, yesterday, the U.S. ambassador to the Czech Republic, Bijan Sabé, and Czech Defense Minister Jana Čer.
All right, I'll forward it to where he's like taking questions about, there was the drone attack and the response. So I'm just going to kind of go forward it for a second.
Chernakova signed a contract. And finally, Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Leaders expressed appreciation appreciation for Trinidad and Tobago's leadership in the Caribbean community and in co-hosting the upcoming Caribbean Nations Security Conference alongside U.S. Southern Command in November of 2024. They further commended the robust partnership between the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. The senior officials exchanged views on illicit trafficking and to working together to improve Caribbean regional security and resilience. With that, I'd be happy to take your questions. We go to AP Tarkov.
Thanks,
All
General.
right, here we go.
Has Secretary Austin provided the president response options at this point, or is the building still looking at the best way to deter future strikes? And I have couple others.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. So I'm not going to get into the specific conversations that the secretary has had with the president. As I've highlighted, we will respond in a time and manner of our choosing.
Is the building still evaluating options on how best to respond at this point?
I'm not going to get into the specifics as it relates to potential future operations, other than, again, to reiterate that we will respond in a time and manner of our choosing.
Well, then,
General.
let's take it another way. You said from the podium the U.S. does not seek to widen this war, but how do you deter Iran, which has clearly supplied and endorsed some of these attacks, from keeping from doing this again and leading to another proxy attack on U.S. forces?
Yeah, so again, as a reminder, our forces are in Iraq and Syria and in the region supporting the lasting defeat of ISIS. That's the mission that we've been focused on. When we need to, we will protect our forces. Again, I'm not going to get into Telegram.
Once again, this knucklehead does not have a clue. Over 150 times we were attacked. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. When it started October 12th, 17th, it's going to continue until you take out Iran. These knuckleheads have no clue what they're doing. It's been through this administration from Afghanistan, Ukraine, and now this here. Oh boy, we need Trump.
Graphing or discussing potential future operations, other than to say, again, we will respond in a time and manner of our choosing. Jennifer.
General Ryder, have you attributed to Kateb Hezbollah or any other group who was responsible for this drone strike?
So, Jennifer, Central Command is still assessing, but again, we are confident that this attack was sponsored by Iranian-backed proxies.
So Kateb Hezbollah has just put out a message on Telegram telling its fighters not to attack U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria, suggesting that they will support the fight in Gaza in other ways, and suggesting that even if the U.S. strikes them, not to respond. What is your response to that?
Yeah, we've seen those reports. I don't have a specific comment to provide, other than actions speak louder than words.
Thank you. A couple questions. First of all, can you speak a little bit about the drones that are based at Tower 22 in Altan? We had some reporting yesterday that there was some confusion over whether the drone coming into the base was friendly or was friend or foe. And I know that most of these drones should have IFF software enabling them to distinguish between the two. So I'm just wondering if you could tell me whether those drones do have that software.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. So no, I'm not going to get into the specifics on the kind of capabilities as it relates to intelligence.
All right, so basically, we'll go ahead and fast forward it. All right. Okay, we're going to fast forward that. Give me a second.
Ray said you can ask questions, but the Pentagon general is not going to answer any. He's not going to say, I don't think, what specifics they're going to, how this response is going to go. Cheryl Simpson says, could they knock out drone capabilities? They don't want to get into it. Alex Tiger Boy Emo says, so nobody in here thinks Iran will launch a counterstrike? Yeah, well, I think also it depends. I think if part of this U.S. response is against Iranian interests, Iranian troops, Iranian ships, or on Iranian territory, then politically, Iranian leaders will feel like, I think, that there's more pressure on them to have a bigger response to it.
Yeah, but Iran, I got to pause this. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the scoop. Iran does not have an air force. Their Navy is a bunch of 1970s and 1980s. Yeah, they don't have a military. Only thing they have is the Guard, and they don't have they got ballistic missiles, but they don't have no nuclear weapons. So if we attack Iran, there would not be a counterattack. Because if there will be a counterattack, we could bomb the living. I think we should let Israel do that because it's just one of those things you just got to deal with. All right, continue. So it's almost 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Joe Biden has did a primetime press conference. Almost 3 days. I mean, he's just a moron. He's just a freaking moron.
I'm just taking a second to check for updates. I'm not seeing any updates at the moment. Not seeing anything at the moment. Wouldn't this response be to Yemen and not Iran? No, because Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen are carrying out, who are backed by Iran, are carrying out attacks on ships in the Red Sea. This drone attack in Jordan is not related to the Houthis. This was carried out by some Iranian-backed group in Iraq or Syria, according to the Pentagon. It's not the Houthis. The Houthis is a different Iran-backed group in Yemen. Lou thinks that nothing is happening tonight. I haven't even seen much new reporting coming out tonight about what might happen. I'm going to check some other sources, outlets, and see if there's any new reporting. Because sometimes you hear some stuff leak out, but there's not much new that I've seen while we've been on the air. As we discussed before, I'll show you this again in case you missed it. U.S. readies retaliatory strikes for drone attack by Iran-backed militants, says ABC News. An official said they would play out over the course of several days. We've been hearing multiple reports that this retaliation could involve multiple targets over multiple days. ABC News says the U.S. response to a drone attack that killed 3 American service members in Jordan last weekend will be carried out over the course of several days and striking multiple targets, a U.S. official told ABC News Tuesday. These are going to be very deliberate targets, deliberate strikes on facilities that enabled these attacks on U.S. forces, said the official, speaking on condition of anonymity in order to discuss sensitive details. Officials would not say whether any of the targets would be inside or outside Iran. Leaving the White House this morning, President Biden said he had decided how the U.S. would respond to the attack by Iran-backed militants, but gave no more details.
Okay.
So once this response starts, it could happen over a period of days. And as I mentioned earlier, saying that this report that the targets are going to be strikes on facilities that enabled these attacks, I mean, that can be interpreted different ways. If you say, well, the attacks were enabled by Iran sending money to these groups in other countries, then you could argue that anything that produces money for Iran is like oil facilities, could be seen as related to these attacks. Lemon Drop Kid thinks they're giving everyone time to get underground. Chris Bartels thinks it's all conjecture so far. Oops, I don't need the earlier today up there.
Soldiers were killed. Joe Biden says he knows how he'll respond. Video.
All right. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the show. We got some things.
We can also check what.
We got some things going on. I got Sky News.
White House press.
I got Sky News. They're going to talk about what's going on.
But yeah,
This is where I get the latest information.
Our viewer Cole Kelleher says, I have several family members that are or were military. Hopefully this response to Iran is a quick one.
It's like let's see what they're talking about.
Sina, our viewer Sina Shojay says there is no news on Iranian Telegram channels. I'm in Tehran. That's very neat. Sina thinks nothing will happen tonight, and I hope nothing happened.
Okay, so
Starjet says would not be surprised if it's an F-35 attack.
F-35. Okay, so we're waiting.
By the way, this is not related directly to the Iran stuff, but this is quite interesting. I want to mention this really quickly. It's pretty crazy. Hang on, let me just show you this real quick. At least half of Gaza's buildings have been damaged or destroyed since Israel launched its retaliation for the Hamas attacks of October 7th. New analysis seen by the BBC reveals. Remember, about 2 million people live in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
At least half of Gaza's buildings have been damaged or destroyed. I just saw that right now. Again, I'm not going to really get into it, but, well. Leanne Ticknor says it's a stunning and awful statistic. I mean, again, 2 million people live there.
All right, Bama Noah. Yeah, Ocean's on.
Hey, I got an interesting article here from BBC. What options does U.S. have to respond? Jordan base attack. What options does U.S. have to respond? Let's look at this from BBC.
Oh, I know for a fact. You got F-35s, you got F-18s, you got Tomahawk cruise missiles.
How many personnel on the base, says Picklefart? I read around several hundred, on 350. I read an article that said that. How many injured? I read over 40.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the injuries, though, hold on a second here. I posted something about this. I think only a smaller number of those were very serious injuries. So, yeah, look at this. Liz Frieden had posted, this was yesterday, Liz Frieden, who is with Fox News, posted, the 8 U.S. service members who were medically evacuated from Tower 22 were sent to the Baghdad Diplomatic Support Center for further medical support. 5 of them were assessed for mild traumatic brain injuries and returned to duty. 3 of them will be sent to Landstuhl in Germany. So 8 people were evacuated for treatment, and 5 of them have been returned to duty. So getting back to this, again, big options, target something in Iran or target Iranian interests like a ship or troops which are not inside Iran, or target something that's not technically Iranian, but Iran supported, like Iran-backed proxy forces in, say, Syria or Iraq. Or there's even a chance you could have more economic sanctions.
Oh, God.
Or a cyber attack or something like that. Let's take a look at this. P. William Grimm says, what's a mild traumatic brain injury? I think maybe when they say traumatic brain injury, they can be something like a concussion. You know, if there's a loud bang that happens right near you, maybe you get a concussion.
Mm-hmm.
Or you get ringing in your ears or something like that. I think maybe those kind of things, because that would be something that affects your brain where you could return to duty in a few days. Camp Crazy thinks there's a response going on right now. Now, we haven't heard any kind of report about that. I will certainly let you know if I hear anything. Let's mention what BBC is talking about here. Hang on. Again, there's that issue. We talked about this. The response, the Biden administration will want to be strong enough to actually seem like a deterrent to make Iran think twice about continuing to support these attacks on U.S. troops, but they don't want it to be too strong to escalate the situation a lot further. President Biden, the challenge for the U.S. as the BBC is to find the right balance between deterrence and escalation. Fail to act decisively and it risks sending a message of weakness that will only encourage more attacks. Act too forcefully and it can trigger an escalatory response from Iran and its allies. What are the options? How does this work? The U.S. will already have a number of on-the-shelf military options to choose from. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
These have been drawn up by the U.S. Department of Defense with intelligence input from the CIA and the National Security Agency. Mm-hmm. They are then presented to the U.S. National Security Council, and policymakers, with the president making the final decision and signing off on the chosen course, which he says he has.
Yeah, I don't believe him. I don't believe him.
Option 1, strike Iran allied bases and commanders. This is the most obvious choice and the one that's not been used in the past. These would not be Iranian forces and Iranian people and stuff in Iran. It would be Iran allied. There are a large number of bases, weapon stores, and training depots across Iraq and Syria belonging to the myriad of Iran-backed militias. These militias are trained, equipped, and funded by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, Quds Force, but not necessarily directed by them. The U.S. knows who they are and where they are. It could easily carry out more precision-guided missile attacks on those bases. But this has so far, because the U.S. has been doing this for months, this has so far failed to deter the militias who have launched more than 170 attacks on U.S. bases in the region since October 7th.
Mm-hmm.
Responsibility for the attacks has been claimed by a group calling itself the Islamic Resistance in Iraq. This is an umbrella term for a number of Iran-backed militias, some of which have previously fought, ironically, on the same side as the U.S. against their common enemy, the Islamic State. These groups share common aims with Iran, namely to drive the U.S. military from Iraq and Syria and to punish the U.S. for its military support of Israel. So that's one option, to strike Iran-allied bases and commanders. Another option, strike Iran. Striking inside Iran. This would be a massive escalation and not something the U.S. would consider lightly.
Oh, please.
It is highly unlikely. This is what the BBC thinks. The BBC thinks, this article by Frank Gardner with BBC. Frank Gardner believes it is highly unlikely, although not inconceivable, that the U.S. retaliation would include hitting targets on Iranian sovereign territory. Neither Washington nor Tehran want to get into a full-scale war, and both have said so. Iran's response could well include attempting So if the U.S. strikes Iranian territory, Iran's response, we mentioned this earlier, could well include attempting to close the economically vital Strait of Hormuz, where ships leaving the Persian Gulf travel through the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil and gas flow. This would have a devastating effect on world economies, driving up prices and almost certainly damaging President Biden's chances of re-election in November. Remember this. That is something that Iranian forces could do. This is Iran right here. There's the Persian Gulf. The ships coming out of the Gulf need to travel through here, the Strait of Hormuz. So that would be a huge deal if Iran started trying to close off the Persian Gulf. And then gas prices, oil prices way up if that happens.
Hold on, we're going to BBC.
One
There is a
alternative
war
to striking
underway,
inside
and it
Iran
is
is to
now
go after
escalating.
senior Iranian commanders.
On Jordan's
who are in
borders with
or
Iraq and Syria,
There
US-based Tower 22 is the epicenter of rising tensions after 3 American soldiers were killed in a drone attack blamed on Iranian-backed militia. In the nearest town, people are worried that a conflict that began in Gaza may soon spread.
The situation generally is not stable as long as there is a war in Gaza, and the same for the whole of the Middle East and in Western countries.
The Gaza war is unfair. It's killing children, killing women, and there's no justice. We'd lose everything. We'd lose hope if the war spreads across the region.
We're about as close as we can get to Tower 22 here, given that it is a closed military zone. But across the deserts of Jordan, Syria and Iraq, there are many such American bases that have come under increasing number of attacks since the beginning of the Gaza war by Iranian-backed militia. Joe Biden's challenge is to take action that is strong enough to deter any more of those attacks, but not so severe that it tips the region into a much bigger war.
US reprisals now seem imminent after President Biden was asked, has he decided how he'll respond to the attack?
Yes.
And he was asked, does he hold Iran responsible?
I do hold them responsible in the sense that they're supplying the weapons to the people who did it.
It may well be the most consequential decision of his presidency. A huge amount is at stake.
في التصنيف الأمريكي بالإرهاب فهو مضحك.
America's enemies and Iran's allies across the Middle East are watching. In Yemen, issuing more defiant propaganda videos, Houthi rebels are not backing down, despite US-British airstrikes. And Lebanon's Iranian-backed Hezbollah militia keep up their dangerous brinkmanship with Israel. Experts say the danger is America's response only encourages its enemies to up the ante too.
These militia, like Hezbollah's militia or the IRGC militia in this area, just waiting when and how this next strikes will happen in the region. And then they are coming to a next level of the escalation from their side against the Americans. We expect that very well.
Across the Middle East, they are holding their breath, awaiting America's next move. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, Roweshad, Jordan.
Video footage has emerged of Israeli forces, some dressed as Palestinian women and medical staff, raiding a hospital in the occupied West Bank.
Okay, so, oh boy. Looks like it's not going to happen tonight.
Associated with that in this sense, and also, like, you know, is what happened so far, does the U.S. want to say that justifies taking out the leader of the country? There's a lot of big consequences that could flow from a move like that. And then what good does it really do you, right? So if the U.S. were to take out the leader of Iran, somebody else would be the leader after that. So I don't see it as a really realistic option. I did see one article talk about it, though. Buyer Jane says, are there any sanctions for the U.S. on Iran? Yeah, the U.S. has lots of sanctions on Iran. I've seen some articles say something like, well, there's so much sanctions on Iran that the U.S. doesn't really have much room to do that much more if they want to put sanctions on Iran. I've seen another article. I can't remember what the article was. I think I read it on the air last night, where it might have been from The Economist, where it said, well, there's a lot of sanctions on Iran, but they're not really enforced that strongly, some of them, so the U.S. could ramp up enforcement on the sanctions, enforcement of sanctions. So I don't know if sanctions will be any kind of increased enforcement or increased sanctions will be any kind of any part of this response. (5:44 a.m. Iran time). I just saw another article about options we might look at. Do you guys want to take a quick look at what John Kirby said today in the White House press briefing? We won't watch the whole thing. What do I think will happen? I think the most likely, I would be surprised if there's an attack on Iranian soil. I would be surprised if there's an attack on an Iranian ship. I think the most likely thing that happens is some sort of military action in Syria and or Iraq, and the U.S. will argue that it'll be something where the U.S. argues that it's like more than they've done before, but it's still targeting these militias. Maybe I don't even know if the U.S. will target Iranian personnel who are in Iraq or Syria. I mean, I think the most likely scenario is that the U.S. targets these Iranian proxy groups in Iraq and Syria, but they have to tell some story about why this is an escalation, because they've already been doing that. So maybe they do a bunch of those strikes. That's the most likely. I'm not saying it'll happen, but I would be surprised to see an attack on Iranian soil, but it could happen. Could happen. We'll just have to see. I mean, so far, since October 7th, the response to the attacks on U.S. forces have been restrained. We'll take a look at this in a second. Wall Street Journal, 3 ways the U.S. can punish Iran after a fatal drone attack. Direct strikes, attacks on proxies, or Tehran's personnel abroad, and economic measures are all options. Hang on one second here. Give me one moment. One moment.
Yes, you beat me. Good evening, Nancy and Anthony.
Cheryl Simpson says, doing nothing could be peaceful. I thought we might get some more reports leaking out about what the response might be, but we haven't really seen much of that yet. Hang on a second here. Hang on one moment. Patricia Yu says, doing nothing will encourage more attacks. Quick thanks to our mods. We have BZ is modding, Ruth Krafasi. They're over there on YouTube. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Kay Lowry Body, Valerie Gail Griffin, Christina Neal, Margaret Riley over there on Facebook. I'm getting everybody. Linda Belk, Larry on X, over on Twitch. Ashton Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, Davey Green, Idaho Star. I got that fire, Papa Bear. Chiclet says it won't be a war, more like a game of chicken. Yeah, it's just one of these. It's one of these scenarios where you don't know exactly when things will happen, but Biden has said, as of this morning, he had decided on what to do. Our viewer Zico for Yuri says doing something will probably urge more attacks. Thanks to Whiskey Pack for subscribing on Twitch. Also thanks to Cardio for the bits on Twitch. Cardio thinks those soldiers died Saturday night. I think it was early Sunday morning, but same basic time. It has now been almost 72 hours. If we are going with a bold ballistic assault, it will happen in the next couple of hours or has already happened. That's what Cardio thinks. Thanks Ophono101 for subscribing, and Dr. McBagelskins for subscribing over there on Twitch, and Jackson for the bits, and Savage Beetle for the Savage Beastie for the bits on Twitch, and Nate75. Thanks so much for your support, Nate, on YouTube. I think we're really at the point where it could just happen at any time. Around the clock, like who knows? Why is that not posted? Was there no press briefing today, no White House briefing? I thought Kirby spoke today, but I'm not seeing the briefing posted. So maybe there was actually no briefing today. There was a Pentagon briefing. We showed you some of that. Maybe there wasn't. No. I'm not seeing it. Oh, you know what I can show you? We won't watch this much of this. Let's just see if the State Department had a briefing today. Let's just see what the State Department had to say about all this. Hang on, I'll get that up on the screen right now. We'll just take a quick peek and see what was said. I'm sure it was, not that much in detail. But let's take a peek at it. Here it is. Where is, oops. Yeah, this
Good
was
evening,
today,
everybody. I am
a few hours ago, 5 hours ago, it says.
Just stop by to say hello.
Let's just see what he had to say. Oh, they had a briefing on Air Force One at 2 p.m., says Captain Truth. I didn't see that. Maybe it's post. Oh, I can probably get a transcript of that. Yeah, I should be able to get a transcript of what Kirby said. Let's just take a quick look at this from the State Department.
It's dark in here. You guys are in dark a little bit. It's just because I haven't been here in a few days. Yep, there we go. But there's light, and there was light. Okay, I don't have anything to start. Matt?
Really? You have nothing to start? Okay, so let me just start away. I want to ask two separate things on the Gaza situation. One is, do you yet have a better idea of the aid, the money suspension to UNRWA, how much it is?
I'll skip over that.
That kind of thing.
So
I have a second, which is related.
So
let me just check and see if I can find him answering a question about, if he's going to answer one of the initial questions about Iran. If not, I'm going to just go away from it. Skipping through here for a second. Still talking to that guy. Let's see. All right, it's not, a lot of the initial questions are not about the Iran stuff, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. I should be able to maybe find the what Kirby said today. I got it. Here it is. Look, it's here. I got it for you. All right, I found it. Thanks for the information about that. All right. We're going to do this. Get rid of this. There it is. Okay. You can see press gaggle by Principal Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton and National Security Council Coordinator John Kirby. Captain Truth says it's on audio only. It was a gaggle. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of go through quickly and just show you a couple of things here from the briefing, from the gaggle briefing today. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay, this is where John Kirby starts speaking here. Fine. Has the intelligence community has the intelligence community come to a conclusion on who is behind the Jordan drone strike? And if so, can you say which militant group was behind the strike? Kirby, I am not in a position today to confirm exactly what group is responsible. We're still working through the analysis, but as I said the other day, I mean, clearly this is the work has all the hallmarks of groups that are backed by Iran and in fact by the group Kataib Hezbollah as well. So, question, why wait for, it's about 48-ish hours now since the attack happened. Are you essentially giving these groups the opportunity to move personnel, move their weaponry out of the way? Yeah. And what message does it send by waiting 2 days to strike back at this point? Kirby, as we said, and the president has said, we're going to respond. And we're going to do it really in a way, in a time of our own choosing. And you know that's no different, it's not a different approach than we've taken in the past. Question, President Biden said this morning that they, as in Iran, were supplying the weapons that were used in this attack. Does this mean that Iran was the manufacturer of the drone that was used as well? Kirby, that Iran, I won't get into the specifics about the actual drone. Again, DOD is still working through the forensics of the attack, but we know for a fact Iran and the IRGC provide these groups weapons and capabilities. We know for a fact they have provided them drones in the past as well, but as for the exact drone that was that was involved in the attack. Again, DOD is working through the forensics on it. Fine. Let's do the deal. Fine. Not gonna worry about that right now. John, the president said when he left the White House, he had reached a decision on the strikes. What is the guiding principle as he makes this decision? And is it fair to say that these strikes will be more forceful than the ones that were done previously? Kirby, well, with the caveat, I'm certainly not going to telegraph punches here or get into specifics of potential future military operations. To your question, guiding principle of the strikes is making sure that we continue to degrade the kinds of capabilities these groups have at their disposal to use against our troops in our facilities and to send a strong signal to their backers and to the Iran's IRGC that these attacks are unacceptable. And we're going to do, the president will do what he has to protect our troops and our facilities and to look after our national security interests in the region. And I will tell you that, as I said yesterday, they have now taken the lives of 3 American troops, and so I think it's fair for you to expect that we will respond in an appropriate fashion. And it's very possible that what you'll see is a tiered approach here, not just a single action, but potentially multiple actions over a period of time. Keep that in mind. And can you say if the reaction will only be military in nature, or is economic responses such as sanctions on the table as well? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get into more detail than that. Okay. Question. Can I ask for clarification on some question earlier? Has the U.S. identified who is behind the attack that killed the 3 American servicemen? Kirby, I already answered that question. We're still working our way through that question. But the president has decided on his response, he said. So how can he decide on his response if you're still working through that? Kirby, I don't have anything, I just don't have anything more to add on that. Okay. Okay, that was all Kirby had to say about the Iran stuff, basically. Okay. So again, not much. Clearly a response is coming. Clearly the administration holds Iran responsible in a serious way for this drone attack, but we don't know the specifics right now. Hey, thanks Donna Smith for the gift memberships. I appreciate that, Donna. Give me a shout at Lookner on X. Our viewer, John1948, says, makes sense, keep it vague so enemy has little advance warning. It is 6:02 a.m. Iran time, 5:32 a.m. Iraq and Syria time. We have been on the air for a little while because this response could come at any time. President Biden said this morning he had decided on a response. We don't know exactly when it's going to happen. Thinking maybe more likely at night. So we've been on the air just in some nighttime hours. But certainly, if I'm not on the air when it happens, I will, as soon as I hear about it, come on the air. But I think we're going to stay on the air at least until sunrise Iran time. Maybe sunrise Iraq and Syria time. We'll see. You don't know, and maybe something happened already. You might get a press release that says, "Hey, we've just done this." Jill LeBlanc says, "I can't imagine doing nothing is an option at this point." Gail Lee says, and then comes the reaction of the reaction of the reaction. Our viewer, 007 Indiana Jones says, I hope it's an extremely minor thing and nobody dies and there is no escalation. Thanks to Jamdra for your support, Jamdra. I'm also looking for updates. Haven't heard much new while we've been on the air. But as soon as I hear anything, I will certainly let you know. Yeah, we already showed some of the Pentagon briefing a little earlier. Thanks, Jamdra. Again, much appreciated, Jamdra. Maybe we'll peek at this. I mentioned the Wall Street Journal had an article about the different options. Just Josh says, have you checked Flight Tracker for U.S. tanker and command flights? Yeah, I'll mention this again about the Flight Tracker stuff. First of all, I don't think when an attack happens, you will see aircraft involved in the attack on the radar. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there will be some, but I'm not really looking for that. But maybe there's a command flight out there. I don't know. But more importantly is this. This is my overall point. I am not actively looking at the flight radar because I am not an expert on what's normally up there. There's plenty of military planes that are normally in the air. So what I do is I leave it to people who I follow, who I know what they're talking about. And if they see something big happening on the flight radar, they will post about it and we'll hear about it, and I'll hear about it and I'll let you know. But I'm not going to look myself at the flight radar because I don't know what's normally up there, and I'm kind of useless at analyzing that stuff. But if I do hear of any kind of, I follow a bunch of OSINT accounts, and these are the kind of people who really know what's normally on the flight radar and if something's different. And if I do hear anything about that, I will certainly let you know. I've heard nothing about anything being on flight radar which suggests like, oh, the attack's going to happen right now or something. But I will certainly let you know. So I'm keeping an eye on sources that watch the flight radars. That's the way of saying it.
Guys, say a prayer for these three brave American.
Again, if I hear anything about it, I will keep you posted. Okay. Wall Street Journal had an article today, 3 ways the U.S. could punish Iran after fatal drone attack. We'll look at this for a second. Well, I'm going to put an eye drop in. Make myself disappear for a second. Okay. Better. Okay, we'll skip down here. President Biden said today in the morning he held Iran responsible for arming the perpetrators of the attack and had made a decision on how to respond. So far, officials have not previewed their response, but there are at least 3 broad groups of options the U.S. has in its arsenal. By the way, the base that was attacked by the drone is right there where the fort is, right here in the northeast corner of Jordan. 1, strikes on Iranian territory or waters, says the Wall Street Journal. A direct strike on Iran's territory. Now, again, we read an article that said this last night. I want to emphasize this again. A direct strike by the U.S. on Iran's territory would be unprecedented. A direct U.S. strike on Iran's territory would be unprecedented. The U.S. has never done that before. The Reagan administration attacked Iranian ships and offshore oil platforms in 1988 in retaliation for Tehran's mining of U.S. warship. But the U.S. military has not previously attacked targets on Iranian territory. It would be a huge deal. I'm sure there would be a huge amount of political pressure on the Iranian leadership to carry out some very strong response. Miami Mercenary thinks that's not going to happen. Even former President Trump, who led a maximum pressure campaign against Iran during his time in the White House, as the Wall Street Journal planned, but then called off direct strikes on Iran in 2019 after Iran shot down a U.S. surveillance drone. In an election year, the Biden administration risks being seen as weak on Iran if it doesn't formulate a strong response to the death of U.S. troops, analysts say. I think we might have, this article, I think it was updated today, but we might have read some of this last night, updated today. So I apologize if some of this is a repeat, but it's interesting. Gabriel Noronha, a former Iran advisor in the Trump administration, says Iran believes its proxy groups can force the U.S. to, hold on a second, can force its troops to withdraw. Let me do this. I got to do this here. A former Iran advisor in the Trump administration says Iran believes its proxy groups can force the U.S. to withdraw from the Middle East, and that only a strong response can address that. Hitting inside Iran creates a sense of vulnerability for the regime it desperately wants to avoid, he says. But direct strikes on Iran risk triggering an all-out regional war, which the White House says it's eager to avoid. If the U.S. doesn't strike inside Iran, it could strike Iranian proxy groups or Iranians abroad. The Biden administration could choose from a range of options to stop short of hitting Iran directly, such as striking its paramilitary Quds Force personnel in Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, hitting Iranian ships at sea, or mounting a major attack on the Iranian-backed militia group that was deemed to be responsible. Those are all options as well, as the Wall Street Journal says. Okay. And the U.S. has struck over the last several months these Iranian-backed groups, but they would need to carry out a bigger response to make it seem like an escalation, the U.S. I don't think the U.S. would want to make a similar response to what it had done a month ago or something, before U.S. troops had been killed. A U.S. intelligence advisor said the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and its proxies in Deir ez-Zor and other parts of East Syria are at the top of the list for U.S. strikes, and that their movements are closely monitored by drones and satellites. It's going to be a shooting range, the person said. Also, another option is sanctions or financial enforcement. While Iran is already heavily sanctioned, there is room to pursue more economic retaliatory measures against Tehran. Not all the sanctions on Iran are enforced, say some current and former Western officials, especially when third countries are involved. Okay. So those are just some options. If you want to read the rest of that, you can go to the Wall Street Journal. 3 ways the U.S. could punish Iran after fatal drone attack. It is 6:13 a.m. Iran time. Less than an hour until sunrise in Iran. When is sunrise in Baghdad? 7 a.m. sunrise in Baghdad. And the time in Baghdad is, what, 5:43 a.m. Give me a shout, let me know your thoughts. We are here covering this live. No response yet. There is, I'm missing a link here. There it is. As one of our viewers were saying, lots of planes on flight radar right now. There's Iran. Nothing on flight radar 24 that tons of people are following. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, I don't know. In terms of like sunrise versus daylight, I don't know what it might be getting light there in Iran right now. I should see if I can. I don't know that I have a live feed. A couple of our viewers said they were in Tehran. I don't know if I have a live shot of Tehran. I can't show it to you. I won't have the rights to it, but I don't see it initially. But it gets light before sunrise. My theory might be wrong, but my theory was like, well, it's less likely to start during the day. So at least stay on until it's like daylight there. And remember what Tyler Rogoway said from the war zone. He posted this 2 hours ago. He said 3:30 a.m. Baghdad, Damascus time, quarter moon, showing mostly clear over Baghdad, cloudy over Damascus. This is the heart of the window. Nothing to say tonight the U.S. will strike, but this is when is most opportune in most cases. That was a couple hours ago. Hunt Beer says, I would think it would be sooner rather than later. Check ADSB exchange. Yeah, again, I'm not going to start getting really into the flight radar stuff because I don't know what's normally there. So if I'm looking at the flight radar, it's just, I'm looking at something with no knowledge of it. So there could be some plane flying around, some military plane, and for all I know, I don't know, maybe it flies around the same place every day. So it's not, that's why I don't really spend time looking at stuff unless I see people who know what they're talking about saying, well, look at this. Or, I mean, you can imagine an obvious situation where it would be clear what to look at, but it's just not helpful for me to start looking at stuff because I don't really know what I'm looking at. You know what I'm going to do? I do want to do this. We did a poll last night where I asked what people thought the response was going to be. And I'd be interested in seeing if people have changed their view at all. I'm going to post a poll right now. I'll post it where I can post it in YouTube and Twitch. Okay, I just posted a poll on YouTube, and I'm going to post the same thing on Twitch as well. And the poll says, what will U.S. response be? And the choices are strikes in Iran, strikes on Iran ship or ships. Hit Iran troops outside Iran. And hit Iran proxy groups. Okay, so I can say that over there on YouTube, we have right now 53% are choosing the least escalatory choice, strikes on Iran proxy groups. 24% say strikes in Iran. 12% hit Iran troops outside Iran. 11% say strikes on Iran ship or ships. So 53% in YouTube say strikes on Iran proxy groups. Over there on Twitch, 71% say strike on proxy groups. 17% say strikes in Iran. 6% say strikes on Iran ships. 7% say strike on Iran troops outside Iran. So you guys are definitely, a majority of you are saying you think it's going to be the least escalatory option, hitting the Iranian proxy groups, which have already been hit in the last several months, but maybe hitting them in a way that's in a bigger way than they've been attacked. I think basically the attacks before have been like hitting some buildings belonging to these proxy groups. I'm going to wrap up the poll, but that's interesting. There you go. Thanks for voting. All right. Let me know if you have any thoughts, any comments. Predictions at Lookner on X is now 6:22 Iran time. Our viewer Patricia Thomas says, have they identified who sent the drone yet? Was it a proxy group? Sorry if I missed that. They are saying it was an Iranian-backed proxy group. They're saying there are signs that it was Kataib Hezbollah, but it's not been conclusively identified which group sent the drone. Quick thanks, by the way, to our Facebook subscribers like Shannon Davis Hughes, Patricia G. Thomas, Leanne Ticknor, Billy Joe Drage, Juster Singer, Lou Green, Eve Richards, Lacey Carter, Jasmine Fisher, Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley. Thanks to all of our Facebook subscribers and our Twitch subscribers like Whiskey Pack, Dr. McBagel Skins, Phono 101, Shaggy, thanks for subscribing. And hang on a second here. Bastion Girl, thanks for subscribing over there on Twitch. Wall Street. Warlord Wolf, Mahjong Lady. All of our Twitch subs, thank you. Leon G says they have to hit the factories, don't they? Would they hit drone factories? You never know, though, not only when something's going to happen, but when you might get like news about stuff or new reporting. And there hasn't really been much new the last few hours. Why do people keep messaging me to read Biden's latest tweet? I don't see what the importance of it is. It looks like it was just pre-posted. Yes, so the Biden account posted something about Elmo. My guess is that I don't think President Biden is in bed right now, spontaneously composing a post about Elmo. It's probably something that was pre-scheduled. Said, I know how hard it is some days to sweep the clouds away and get sunnier days. Our friend Elmo is right. We have to be there for each other, offer our help to a neighbor in need, and above all else, ask for help when we need it. Even though it's hard, you're never alone. Again, I'm not really reading anything into this. I certainly don't think it has anything to do with what's going on in Iran. Andy Gunn says, I think we could see an oil embargo like in the 70s with Gaza and everything else happening. Look, certainly if things ramp up in the Middle East, if tensions ramp up, if there's more hostilities, that could make oil prices go way up by whatever mechanism. And I'm sure that's something that the Biden administration is in mind and doesn't want to happen. We see a number of articles talk about how if there's hostilities with Iran, that could really impact oil prices. Captain Skittles says Biden wants the clouds swept away over Iran to strike. Yeah, I'm not really reading into that. I'm not really reading a connection between the Elmo post and the upcoming military response to Iran. Hey, thanks, by the way, Tim Bellwood. That's very kind of you, Tim. I really appreciate that. Also, Captain Skittles, thank you so much. And Nate75 as well. And also No More Ads 1132. Very kind of you. Really appreciate your support. It is 6:27 a.m. Iran time, 5:57 a.m. Syria and Iraq time. I should also check a couple other sources here. Oops, hold on. I follow some sites that focus on Iran too, people focusing on Iran, but I haven't heard anything from them. Do we know what the response is going to be, says Molly Kahana. No, we do not. No, we do not. We do not. We have no idea. I mean, I think we can make some guesses, but we don't know. Some people asked how many people are served at that base in Jordan. Around 350, according to this article. U.S. beefing up air defenses at base in Jordan, where 3 soldiers were killed in drone attack. This from CBS News. The U.S. is sending additional air defenses to the base in Jordan, where 3 American soldiers were killed in a drone attack. About 350 U.S. Army and Air Force personnel are stationed at the outpost known as Tower 22. A Pentagon spokesperson said people were actually in their beds when the drone impacted near their sleeping quarters. Singh, the Pentagon spokesperson, said the attack was inconsistent with prior strike because it hit living quarters and was early in the morning. Tower 22 did not have the same air defenses as the Special Forces base located about 50 miles north in Al-Tanf, Syria, which has been under frequent attack. The deadly attack on Tower 22 was the first time a drone had landed on the Jordanian side of the border. Philippe Lewis, that's very generous of you. Thanks so much, Philippe Lewis. Really appreciate your support. Philippe, thank you. Also, MK and Jordan from NY. Thanks so much for your support, MK and Jordan from NY. Thanks for your support. And for watching. Fine Weinar viewer thinks the Iranian fleet has to be a target. E. Bridget says, I wonder if it's an internal turmoil on whether to strike there. So President Biden did say this morning he's decided on what to do. That doesn't mean he can't change his mind, right? So if Bridget is asking, I don't know if Bridget's saying this, but she might be saying, I wonder if they're still discussing what to do. Just because he said he decided doesn't mean that there's no more discussion. (6:33 a.m. Iran time). Star Child thinks this won't end well for the U.S. If there isn't an attack tonight, response, you would really think it's going to be in the next couple days.
Good evening, everybody. I know, right?
Doug Cuz says always options.
Good evening, everybody. I am working time.
I'm just checking a bunch of different sources right now, see if there's anything new. This is interesting. You get a little editorial here. This looks like an editorial from NBC News, MSNBC. Okay, this is by Daniel R. DePetris, fellow at Defense Priorities, and Rajan Menon, director of the Grand Strategy Program at Defense Priorities. What is Defense Priorities? Like a think tank? It is an American foreign policy think tank that advocates for a more restrained U.S. foreign policy, according to Wikipedia. So it's not surprising that people from the think tank Defense Priorities are advocating for a less strong response. But let's see a little about what they have to say. They say the U.S. should not attack Iran. They say it wouldn't be a stretch to assume any U.S. military action would be broader in scope than the U.S. strikes against Iraqi and Syrian militia sites over the last 3 months. Some pundits and lawmakers want Biden to include Iran itself on the list of targets. Underlying all of this chest thumping is the assumption that U.S. military action would be so painful that Iranian leaders would respond the way we would like them to by standing down and ordering their proxies in the Middle East to cease further attacks against U.S. troops and installations in the region. Unfortunately, this is a low probability scenario, the authors believe. Iran's reaction might confound our expectations. Embarrassed and angered after being struck by American bombs, Iran could up the ante and attack U.S. troops and bases. Washington's extensive military presence in the region, while commonly viewed as a source of strength, may prove to be a vulnerability by providing Iran a long menu of targets to strike. U.S. officials are quick to say the U.S. will act on a time and place of its choosing, but the U.S. doesn't have a monopoly on choosing when and where to attack. If Iran were attacked directly, it too would most likely take time to explore its options before responding, and that response might not be immediate. It might not be what American leaders anticipate. The roughly 45,000 U.S. troops stationed in the Middle East would have to be placed on high alert for an extended period, if only to prepare for the worst. U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria, who have already been attacked more than 160 times since mid-October, would be at the most risk. Iran's retaliation could range from using ballistic missiles to strike U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria to stepping up its shipments of weapons to militias aligned with it. Iran possesses thousands of ballistic and cruise missiles. It's estimated more than any other state in the region. At least some of those missiles can reach large U.S. bases, including bases in Qatar, Bahrain, and the UAE, and Jordan. Iran could also retaliate more discreetly and decide not to go against the U.S. in the conventional conflict it would surely lose. While Iran's conventional military power is lacking, its air force relies on parts of the 70s, its land forces haven't fought a war since the 80s, its navy can't project beyond a limited area, and its primarily focused on defending Iranian territorial waters from foreign attack. Tehran's proxy network is formidable and well suited to using asymmetric tactics to achieve against a superior adversary, like Lebanese Hezbollah, who possesses around 150,000 missiles that can reach all of Israel's major cities and destroy civilian infrastructure. That's something to keep in mind. Hezbollah's missiles could essentially shut down Israel during a full-scale conflict. The Houthis could also do additional actions. Let's set these details aside and return to the larger point. The authors say, those pressing for U.S. military action against Iran wrongly assume Tehran would necessarily buckle under American pressure. Tehran's behavior during the last 5 years invalidates this belief, they say. When the Trump administration withdrew from the Iran deal and put maximum pressure on the Iran economy, Iranian leaders retaliated by increasing the quantity and quality of their uranium enrichment and targeting oil tankers in the Persian Gulf. After Trump ordered the assassination of Soleimani in 2020, Iran targeted a U.S. base in Iraq using ballistic missiles, but they did give them a heads up after that, before the missiles struck. That was what was reported back then. I didn't see that seemed to be more of like a tokenist strike when they did that. And when Israel ratcheted up its attacks on Iran's vessels at sea, Iran mimicked Israeli tactics by going after Israeli-owned ships. So this article, basically the argument is that you can't assume you know how Iran would react to an attack in Iran, and that you don't know exactly what Iran will do. And instead of Iran being deterred, they could step up and either launch more attacks themselves or have their proxies launch attack. So that's the argument of the article. If you want to read the whole thing, go to the U.S. has to respond to the attacks in Jordan, but it shouldn't attack Iran. It's by two members of defense priorities who want a more restrained U.S. foreign policy. By the way, I will say when the U.S.
Oh, you're back, Noah. Well, there's no strikes, airstrikes. Nothing's going on. Let's go, Brandon. He's in Florida doing a campaign appearance, so all day gonna be doing the strikes over there. Probably tomorrow. But came here tonight. I hope you watched the other one that did like the impeachment hearing for Homeland Security. You want to check that out? I got some stuff on that. Other than that, tomorrow, regular schedule, Zshoku's Fun, 10:30 Central. We'll go back to normal unless there's some live coverage of airstrikes. I want to get that, but looks like it's not going to happen. So I'll go ahead and end this up tonight. Thank you guys for coming in. Thank you, Barry Noah, for coming in. Appreciate you always supporting me. I'll see y'all later. See you tomorrow. And hopefully we'll have some cruise information tomorrow. All right, we're out of here.